Hello, everybody. I'm Keith Spera from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Welcome to Let's Talk. No one can accuse my guest today of being afraid to commit. For 40 years, he has hosted the syndicated weekly public radio show, Le Show. For 35 seasons, he has voiced Mr. Burns, Smithers, Ned Flanders, and other characters on The Simpsons. He and his wife of 3 decades, singer Judith Owen, have staged their Christmas Without Tears variety show across 18 holiday seasons. And he may soon strap on a codpiece once again to film the sequel to the 1984 mockumentary, This Is Spinal Tap. Here to talk about all that and more is Harry Shearer. Harry, welcome to Let's Talk.
Thank you, Keith. Great to be here. Hey, I'm just hung up on your wavy background, but I'm sure I'll get over it.
On my wavy background or on yours?
Wavy background.
My wavy background. Yes, it is it's supposed to be peaceful, like a gentle surf, lulling my guests into a false sense of security.
I've got it.
Excellent, and I appreciate the fact that you shaved to come on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm preparing for my next role.
All right, well, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Christmas Without Tears, is that your next role?
It is my next, but I mean, not my proximate role, my next big role, which is the TAP sequel, if it happens.
The TAP sequel, if it happens. Well, and yeah. we'll circle back to that.
Okay.
Christmas Without Tears, let's start with that. You guys, you and Judith have been doing the show for, like I said, 18 seasons. You missed the 2022 performance because you were dealing with COVID. So do you plan to be back on stage this year then?
Well, first of all, I am still dealing with COVID. I have the famous long COVID in my second year of it now. But yes, I'm planning to be there at least for part of the evening. I may resort to my fainting couch for part of it.
You spent time on the thinking couch at past performances. That you seem at ease at that place.
Yeah. But no, she's got Judith does all the producing in this. I just show up and try to be her straight man. But the talent lineup for this year is really phenomenal, and I would be there for it if I weren't participating, because it's just crazy good talent. It's always wonderful talent, but this year I plead guilty to being the biggest this is a COVID moment for me. Sonny Landreth.
Sonny Landreth, the slide guitar player. Ace, yes, Ace, yeah. Ace slide guitar player.
Huge fan of Sonny. I've pushed to the front of crowds at Jazz Fest to see Sonny many a year, so I'm really looking forward to it.
You'll be able to sit right behind him on stage and see what he does.
Yeah, I'll be able to tell him what strings to play.
Exactly. Yeah, and you guys generally have John Goodman on that show, and Brian Batt, Trixie Minx, the burlesque star who's been on the show, is out there. So it is, a non-traditional holiday show in the sense that it is equal parts racy and radiant, irreverent. Beautiful at times, but also a little blue, a little R-rated at times. So it's a very interesting variety show.
Yeah.
I would imagine growing up, Christmas was not a big deal in your household, but you've taken to the show pretty well. You were into the spirit of the thing.
Gee, you handled that well. So far, no hate mail. My parents were from Europe, so anything that went on here was strange to them. They were from, respectively, Austria and Poland. So I was, basically responsible for introducing myself to American culture. They weren't, my dad was trying to teach me soccer when I was 5, and I went, I don't think so. But, I was a media kid from an early age, working in media at 7, but, obsessed with it even before then. So I got a full dose of American pop culture through the media.
Well, and you flirted early on with being a member of the media, didn't you, for your college paper? Didn't you do some work for the college paper?
Oh yes, I was a editor of the editorial page, ran for editor, was refused that editorship by a student council that thought I was anti-Greek.
Anti-Greek?
Anti-Greek. Now, for folks younger than 75, that means that somehow I was opposed to fraternities and sororities. Going into this now is like stupid, but anyway, I had published an editorial by a guy who had been on the paper and was now in graduate school, and he requested anonymity, and the student council thought I was hiding behind that.
Okay, so and you were opposed they thought you were opposed to fraternities and sororities, not the nation next to the Aegean Sea. I mean,
That's correct.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I was not excessively pro-Turkish.
Exactly, pro-Turkish. Well, again, did that discourage you from going into a career in journalism and kind of help nudge you toward the entertainment field?
No, I think it was a hand from above, because I was going to do that, but somehow I avoided. I was writing freelance after I left school for a while for everybody from San Francisco Magazine to the New York Times, but I just got pulled into this radio show that was on in LA at that time, called The Credibility Gap, which was doing comedy about the news on a rock and roll radio station 3 times a day. It was exactly the kind of overwork that you're supposed to do during your 20s, and I did 3 10-minute shows a day.
3 10-minute shows a day. Wow, from scratch. That's insane.
With a Preparation Age commercial in the middle.
Of course. I mean,
yeah.
What else could there be? Well, I got to say, I mean, speaking from someone who is in the media, the path you took probably worked out a lot better for you.
No kidding. Yeah, I'm thankful every day. And I mean, I was obsessed with newspapers. When I was 5, I was cutting out sections of the paper that looked remarkable to me. Really was very much into it, but no kidding, I dodged a bullet.
Yeah. Did I read somewhere, did Mel Blanc, was he a mentor of yours, the guy that did the voice of Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny and all those sort of things? Did you?
All the Looney Tunes voices except for Elmer Fudd.
And he was a mentor of yours, though?
Well, that's a little strong. We were together as cast members of the Jack Benny show, radio and television. And he had a son about my age, so he, was paternal towards me in some ways, not the ways of a certain church we know about. But yeah, I mean, he wasn't ever saying, "Hey kid, here's how you do voices," anything like that. But he was just a very good friend of me and my mom.
Well, I mean, it's interesting though that you had, this close encounter with a guy who has voiced so many, incredible characters and so many, instantly recognizable characters, and you would grow up to voice a whole bunch of instantly recognizable characters on The Simpsons. So, I mean, maybe there was some sort of seed that was planted back then.
Well, if so, it was a very subtle one.
A subtle seed.
Yeah, a subtle seed. I had no plan to do that until, I ran into Matt Groening at, you'll have to explain to your viewers what this is. It was a newsstand and in Hollywood, and I was a fan of his comic Life in Hell, and he was a fan of my radio show, and we just started talking, and that's really how it came to be. So it wasn't like I was going out for auditions for cartoon shows or anything like that.
So it was literally a chance encounter at a newsstand that led to your Simpsons career.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Wow. I mean, those kind of stories always amaze me. I mean, and a lot of the guests that I've had on the show have talked about that, just that one simple encounter and, changed the course of your life. I mean, in there, you see up on the screen, we've got pictures of some of the characters that you voice, the ones that I mentioned in the intro. Man, yeah, if you not run into Matt Groening, the series creator, at that newsstand, I mean, who knows what you'd be doing, yeah.
Well, you know what they tell you, be ready. You don't know what's going to come, but when it does, be ready. it wasn't I was practicing cartoon voices or anything, but on my radio show, I do a lot of characters, and that's what Matt had heard, and that's what gave him the idea.
At this point, I mean, 35 seasons into The Simpsons, do you guys do table reads with the scripts, like all together and everything? Is that still the process?
Not all together.
So you do them remotely?
Yeah. Like everything else, it started being remote at the time of COVID, and it had stopped. So yeah, we're all on the phone together.
Do you do the table reads in the character voices?
Oh, sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, that's what they want to hear, is how the dialogue is going to sound, how it's going to hit in the voices of the characters, so they can judge whether the script needs any improvement or total improvement.
Right, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Can you do both Mr. Burns and Smithers, who often have conversations? I mean, are you able to flip back and forth between those two voices in real time as you're having the conversation between the two of them?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of my little tricks.
It's got to be a little disconcerting for anyone to watch, to see that, those two voices come out of the same mouth that quickly.
Mouth, right? No, that's the kind of deal Fox got,
That's what they pay the big bucks for, right there.
2 characters, 1 mouth. No, I do a lot more than 2, of course.
Right.
But yeah, it's pretty easy for me.
It's almost this easy.
I wouldn't say that, sir.
Pretty good.
See?
Look at that. I wasn't even watching, but I heard it. That was good.
You named it, I claimed it.
Could you theoretically, an intellectual property question, could you use those voices to like do car commercials or something, or does Fox own those voices?
That's a great question. They own the characters. I couldn't possibly say, hey, I'm C. Montgomery Burns, buy a Chevy today. But, although that's a good line. But the question exists as to, can I make that sound for somebody else with a different name? I haven't explored that yet, but so I don't know. But, I wouldn't say they're the least litigious company in the world.
Right, they have lawyers that need to make a living too. So I mean,
they do too.
Yeah.
They need a family to feed. Come on.
Family to feed, absolutely. Intellectual property, was that one of the hang-ups that has prevented there from being a Spinal Tap sequel? And we talked in the intro, but it may happen. There's talk. Rob Reiner just recently said it may shoot in 2024. But was there a hang-up with the intellectual property that was one of the roadblocks to making this a possibility?
No. The intellectual property had been claimed by a French company. Don't even remember the name of it now.
Vivendi was it, or something?
Oh, it was part of Vivendi, Canal Plus.
Okay.
Studio Canal, and they had not been particularly, shall we say, generous, and there was no motivation to do anything for them on our part. And when we got the rights back, that's when the interest began to flower. That was a very rocky relationship. You hear these Hollywood stories and you think, come on, but they're true. Hollywood accounting, you know about that?
I've heard it's, yes, a movie that makes $500 million somehow does not turn a profit or something like that.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a wonderland of stardom, but the financial chicanery in that town is remarkably detailed and inventive.
So all that said, though, again, Rob Reiner, the director who played the documentarian in the original film, has been talking recently that you guys are moving toward possibly doing a sequel next year. Moving toward.
We had a music rehearsal a couple of weeks ago here in town, and if you like to play music, it's fun, and it's something that's totally different from the rest of our careers. Generally, all of us, So the opportunity to get together for a week and just do nothing but play was splendid.
And that was you and Michael McKean and Christopher Guest.
Christopher, yeah.
Gotcha. When you first
Drummer to
what's that?
Drummer to come.
Drummer to come. Well, it's a risky position from what I understand. So
Fingers crossed.
were you when you first took on that role? Were you a decent bass player at that point, or did you kind of did you have to hone your skills? I mean, obviously you don't have to be Geddy Lee to play Derek Smalls in Spinal Tap, I guess, or did you? I mean, is it more complicated than it seems?
Well, I'm in a constant effort to improve as a bass player. I did have some lessons from the original bass player from Blood, Sweat, and Tears, so I had a nice little start. But I go through periods where I practice, and then I go through periods where I find other things to do. But I love playing. Anybody who's anywhere near adept at a musical instrument will tell you in an off moment that you go to a different place. You go to experientially. You're playing with other people. You're communicating with other people in a whole different language. You're in an extremely different headspace. It's a great place to be when you and your colleagues are together in a deep way. It's a great place to be, and it bears no relationship to real life.
Spinal Tap specifically, or being a musician in general?
Well, being able to get into that conversation with other musicians, that's, before you start fooling around. But just the ability to do that is a great gift, to be able to do that with other people. And it's just, it's hard to explain what differs, except that you're not using this language. Mm-hmm. You're communicating in a whole different language.
Well, and it's interesting too that you talk about how you guys got together for a musical rehearsal, and the original film is legendary because it was a mockumentary. It spoofed the sort of heavy metal hard rock scene, as well as the process of making a rock documentary. And yet you guys were rehearsing the music, so I mean the music kind of has to be legit in order for the whole thing to work, right?
Well, I mean, who wants to sit through 90 minutes of shitty music? Nobody I know. The humor was in the lyrics and in the posturing that accompanies the music, but the music itself has to be halfway decent, more than halfway decent. A, it has to be fun to play for us, and B, it has to be fun to listen to, for the audience while they're listening, while they're laughing at the lyrics. There's no real value to bad music. Right,
not at all. Is the logo of your record company a reference to a famous Spinal Tap scene? There, you have, I think it's a zucchini or something that is part of your.
Oh, courgette.
Yes. Is that a reference to a certain scene in Spinal Tap?
Yes, it is. Courgette is the Britishism for zucchini.
So, was that a zucchini in the original film, or was it a cucumber?
It was a zucchini. If you think about it, a cucumber is a little bit too large, even. And its surface is a little bit too warty to be an appropriate symbol.
Well, I don't know if the tin foil would mitigate the lumpiness.
Would obscure the warts?
Yeah. All right. All these years later, does the cod piece still fit, do you think?
The last I tried, yes.
Excellent. You spoke earlier about the work ethic of that early radio show that you did as a youngster, but the show work ethic is pretty intense as well. I mean, you've done this weekly, hour-long syndicated radio show now for 40 years. So we're talking about 2,000, 2,000 episodes, right? Am I doing the math right? A bunch of episodes.
Yeah.
And it's all you doing voices, reading news, collecting all this information.
Music.
Music, exactly. You're a DJ on it as well. How does the production of that show work? I mean, this is all you. What is the method for that?
Waiting until the last minute.
Okay, I can identify. Yeah, I can relate.
That's a big one. Well, I mean, because it is a topical show, I've had to start pre-recording it now on Saturdays, but as late as possible, since I used to do it live on Sundays. And I was always bedeviled by the thought that if I recorded in advance, something would happen late Saturday night that would embarrass me because I had missed it and it totally threw everything into the trash bin of humor. But I've learned to sort of ride that wave. But being last minute is certainly a great motivator. When you gotta get it done, you'll get it done. So I read a lot. I read a lot of news and watch a lot of news anyway. To my dismay, I'm still doing that. So I have in my mind sort of what's big that week, and then I have a staff member who is more adept at computers than I am and sets up computer searches for stories that fit certain descriptions, certain categories. Like crypto right now is one that I'm following a lot. It's just companies going under left and right, and people are still thinking, wow, this is a great way to invest my retirement money. So stuff like that. And then I'll go into the studio mid-Saturday, and if I've got a sketch, I'll do that first and then incorporate it into a show that I do as live, straight through. And some weeks it takes 5 hours, some weeks it takes 8. It takes what it takes.
So your Saturdays are pretty well spoken for. I mean, that's your routine just about every Saturday. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it never bothered me because I thought, Saturday night belongs to the civilians. I have the privilege of being able to go out other nights of the week. So it's like New Year's Eve, same as New Year's Eve,
Exactly.
Good. You do it.
And we've only got a couple minutes left here, but that show, doing it for 40 years, there's never a lack of material. I mean, you have the apologies of the week. Someone's always apologizing for something. Elon Musk, God bless him, has been a recent source of great material. So,
Yep.
So you've never risked running out of material for this show. It doesn't seem.
Oh, no, the world does not disappoint when it comes to people being stupid. No, and then I forgot to mention the other thing that happens every week, which is after I'm done, I think, I'm not doing this again.
Every week?
Every week, pretty much, yeah. If you do anything every week, I think you'll always do that, but I don't know.
Well, and from what I understand, this pays a little bit less than The Simpsons, so...
Yeah, like zero. Well, I discovered very early on, as a entertainer and a creative person, that free equals free. If you want to be free to say whatever you want in whatever way you want for however long you want, you got to take no money, because then they don't have anything to stand on. Well, since we're paying you nothing, there's nothing there. And it's been true over the years. I've never had working in public radio for no money. Fortunately, I have other sources of income, but I've never been bothered by people saying, you can't say that. What are you doing? What do you think you're doing here? Which is a danger in the bigger more commercial media all the effing time.
Right. There are many more hands on the process there, whereas the show, which airs, I think, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. on WWNO here in New Orleans, you've got total freedom. That hour is yours to basically do with it whatever you want.
That's right. I don't even obey the standard public radio format of some message every 15 minutes and, a double message at the bottom of the hour, any of that stuff. It is all mine, all 59 minutes of it. And that's a huge privilege.
Absolutely, to broadcast to all those folks. A minute left here. This has been great. I mean, obviously you got a lot of irons in the fire, still do. You're turning, I think, 80 in December, but you plan to keep on doing all these things indefinitely?
Yeah. There's no sign that any of it's going to stop, and I hope that it doesn't. That's what happens to you when you're not looking. I think John Lennon said something like that. Life is what happens when you're not paying attention.
Well, you filled it with a lot of really cool, really entertaining stuff, Harry. So continued success, and may you carry on indefinitely.
Thank you, Keith.
All right. Well, guys, thank you to everyone for watching. I'm Keith Spera. This has been Let's Talk. We'll see you again next time.